Welcome to our video group presentation, pre-papered for Dr. Abdallah. This is our group members, Farzana Izzati, Nurdina, Nurin, Farazana, and Nick Espiha.
Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Today I'm going to explain the data flow diagram for the production cycle of Biasa Textile Senior Berhad. The diagram shows how the system works to manage information and materials in order to produce ready-made clothing, starting from production planning until the finished goods are stored in the warehouse. The first step is process 1, which is to prepare the master production schedule. The production manager reviews the customer order information from the sales departments as well as the inventory file to check the current inventory level. Based on these two inputs, the manager then prepares the master production schedule and updates it into the MPS file. This schedule is important because it helps to plan and control the entire production process efficiently. Process 2, which is to prepare the bills of materials. Using the MPS, the system prepares the bills of materials, which lists all the raw materials needed for production. This information is then recorded in the bills of materials file, so the company can determine the exact material required before production starts. Then we have process 3, which is to prepare the material requisition. Material requisition forms are prepared in 3 copies to request the materials needed to begin production. 1 copy is sent to the purchasing department, 1 copy goes to the store department, and another copy is filled in the material requisition file for record keeping. This ensures that all material requests are properly tracked and controlled throughout the production process. Next stage is process 4, which is to begin production. Once the materials are transferred from the store, production officially begins. The store supplies the required materials to the production process. If during production there is a need for additional materials, the request will be updated and recorded in the bills of materials file. This helps ensure that material usage is properly controlled and monitored during production. Next, we will move on to the process 5, which is to prepare the job time ticket. During the production process, job time tickets are prepared to track workers' activities and record the amount of time spent by employees in production. The job time ticket is then sent to the accounting department, where it is used for wage calculation purpose. This ensures that employees' working hours are properly recorded and accurately calculated. The last process is process 6, which is to pack the finished good. After the production of ready-made clothes is completed, the finished goods are moved to the packaging stage. The goods are packed according to their design and color, ensuring everything is properly labeled and organized. Finally, the finished goods are sent to the warehouse for storage before distribution.
This is Sadap Crisp SDNBHD, a snack manufacturing company. An internal audit has identified several weaknesses in its expenditure cycle. Lena, the internal auditor, has been assigned to review the company's purchasing, receiving, payment and inventory procedures. While reviewing company records, Lena notices several unusual practices that could expose the company to fraud and financial losses. This is Hamdan, the company purchasing clerk. Most days, the administration staff prepares a purchase request and submits it to Hamdan, the purchasing clerk. Lena asks Hamdan who is allowed to submit purchase requests. Hamdan explains that anyone from the administration or operating department can submit one. Lena identifies this as a weakness because purchase requests should only be submitted by authorized personnel. Lena asks Hamdan how suppliers are selected. Hamdan explains that he always chooses the supplier offering the lowest price. Lena identifies this as another weakness because suppliers should be selected from an approved supplier list based on quality, reliability, and company requirements, not price alone. Next stage is to send purchase order. Hamdan prepares a purchase order. He clicks Send Purchase Order. The purchase order is sent directly to the supplier without a manager's approval. After the purchase order was sent, the good will be delivered. After receive the goods, Hamdan only checks the packing slips without checking the real count of the goods received. Improper checking of purchase order before move the items into the store will result in some of the purchase order is missing. Lena then asks Hamdan how did he verify good delivered that arrived, and Hamdan only said that he used the packing slip only. Nurul receives invoice and packing slip. Lena asked Nurul what documents did she use before making payment. Payment should only be made after a 3-way matching. While completing the audit, Lena think what she need to do, so she decided to review the CCTV footage from the storeroom. Lena watched the footage and noticed someone enter the storeroom and looking suspicious. The next morning, Lena asked Nurul to see her. Lena said that she noticed Nurul enter the storeroom and removed several inventory items. After Nurul was found guilty by the management, an action was taken towards her to keep the safety of the company.
Moving to the next is the 4 basic activities in the expenditure cycle. Firstly, activities in the expenditure cycle is ordering goods and services. The process begins when the company identifies that inventory or suppliers are running low. A purchase requisition is prepared and the purchasing department select a suitable supplier before issuing a purchase order. The purpose of this activity is to ensure that a company obtains the required good at the right quantity, quality, and price. Next activities is receiving the good and services order from the supplier. The receiving department check the quantity and condition of the item against the purchase order or packing slip to ensure that the correct goods have been delivered. After verification, the goods are accepted and stored, and receiving a report or related document is prepared for record purposes. The third activities involve verifying the supplier invoice and recording the liability. The account department compares the supplier invoice with supporting documents, such as the purchase order and receiving report, to ensure that the information is accurate. Once verified, the invoice is approved and recorded as account payable, indicating the company obligation to pay the supplier. The final activities is cash disbursement, which involve paying the supplier for the good or services received. Before payment is made, the accounting department confirms that all supporting documents have been properly approved. The payment is being processed and the transaction is recorded in the accounting system to reduce both cash and the account payable balance.
Based on the weaknesses identified in the case of Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad, we have proposed several control procedures to address this issue and strengthen the company internal control system. The following control procedures are recommended to enhance accountability, ensure compliance with company policies, safeguard company assets, and support a more efficient and reliable procurement process. Our first recommendation is to strengthen the purchase request process at Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad. The company should ensure that only authorized personnel such as inventory officers or department managers are allowed to submit purchase requests. This control helps to prevent unauthorized, duplicate, or unnecessary purchase, which can result in excess inventory, increased operational costs, and inefficient use of company resources. In addition, Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad should implement an electronic purchasing system to record and monitor every purchase request. The system will create a clear audit trail by recording who submitted their request, when it was submitted, and who approved it. This makes the procurement process more transparent and easier to monitor. By implementing this control, the company can improve accountability, reduce human error, and ensure that only valid and proper approved purchase requests are processed. As a result, the procurement process becomes more efficient while reducing the risk of fraud, unnecessary spending, and inventory wastage. Our second recommendation is for Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad to establish an approved supplier list that include only trusted and qualified vendors. Rather than selecting suppliers based solely on the lowest price, the company should evaluate potential suppliers using several important criteria, including product quality, pricing, delivery performance, reliability, and business reputation. This ensures that purchasing decisions are based on overall value rather than cost alone. In addition, the approved supplier list should be reviewed and updated regularly to ensure that all suppliers continue to meet the company performance and quality standards. Suppliers who consistently fail to meet this standard should be removed from the list, while the new suppliers should be undergo a proper evaluation before beginning approval. By implementing this control procedure, Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad can reduce procurement risk, improve purchasing efficiency, and maintain consistent product quality. Our third recommendation is to strengthen the purchase order authorization process at Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad. The company should require all purchase orders are to be reviewed and approved by authorized management before they are sent to supplier. This approval process ensures that every purchase is necessary, properly justified, and comply with the company procurement policies. It also helps prevent unauthorized purchase, duplicate order, or unnecessary spending and potential fraud. In addition, Sedat Creek Syndrome Berhad should implement an electronic purchase order approval system to automate the approval workflow. The system automatically routes purchase order to the appropriate authorized personnel based on approval limit before they are issued to supplier. It also records each stage of approval process, creating a clear audit trail that identifies who approved the purchase order and when it was approved. By implementing this control, the company can improve accountability, reduce the risk of human error, and ensure that every purchase order is properly authorized before an order is placed. As a result, Sedap Creek Sdn Bhd can strengthen its internal controls, enhance procurement efficiency, and ensure that all purchasing activities are effectively monitored and approved.
The next weakness we identified is that the receiving clerk does not receive a copy of the approved purchase order before the goods are delivered. This is an important issue because the receiving clerk is responsible for checking the goods that are arrived from the supplier. To address this weakness, the purchasing department should send the approved purchase order to the receiving clerk before the delivery takes place. Having this document allows the receiving clerk to compare the goods delivered with the details stated in the purchase order. For example, the receiving clerk can confirm that the correct items have been delivered, the quantity is accurate, and the products meet the required quality and specifications. If any items are missing, damaged, or different from what we ordered, the issue can be identified immediately and reported to the purchasing department or supplier for further actions. Besides that, the company should also implement a three-way matching process as an additional internal control. This process involves comparing the purchase order, delivery order, and good received note. By comparing these three documents, the company can ensure that all the information is consistent before updating the inventory records. The last weakness we identified is that there is no restriction on access to the company's inventory. When anyone can enter the storage area or take inventory without proper authorizations, the risk of theft, loss, or unauthorized use of stock becomes much higher. Employees who need inventory for production or business operations should first submit a properly approved stock requisition form. This means that no inventory should be removed from the warehouse without approval. By following this procedure, the company can keep proper records of stock movements and prevent unauthorized withdrawals. Besides controlling access, the company should also carry out regular stock counts and inventory reconciliations. Physical stock should be counted periodically and compared with the inventory records in the system. If there are any differences between the actual stock and the recorded stock, the company can investigate the cause immediately.
One fraud risk can be procurement fraud through intentional over-ordering of inventory. Lina found out that several items were ordered beyond the department's actual needs. This abnormal purchase pattern may indicate that personnel are intentionally acquiring more inventory than needed for their own personal gain, such as collecting bribes from vendors or generating opportunities to misappropriate excess stocks. The purchase of too much can affect financial performance as it consumes the company's working capital and increases the storage costs. Additionally, excess inventory provides opportunity for staff to divert or misappropriate commodities without quick detection, leading to financial losses for the organizations. Thus, Lina's finding of excessive purchase indicates a possibility of procurement fraud in the expenditure cycle and should be explored further to discover whether or not fraudulent purchasing has been occurred. Next, this situation relates to vendor fraud that may use shell businesses as another significant fraud risk. Lina found out that new vendors without a track record were getting huge contracts while existing reputable merchants were being ignored. This non-standard vendor selection method is at risk of some of these vendors being shell businesses created for the purpose of fraudulent procurement active operations. A shell corporation is usually a business entity that engages in little or no actual commercial activity but is used to defraud the public into awarding it contracts or making payments to it. Such vendors might collaborate with employees or have discussed personal interests, resulting in contracts being given unfairly for personal advantage. As a result, company may purchase items or services that are too expensive or low quality or not supplied in accordance with the terms, which leads to financial losses and a decline in procurement integrity. Hence, the research result by Lina points to a possible vendor fraud risk in the expenditure cycle. Additionally, research is required to assess whether any fraudulent procurement action have been performed. Another possible fraud exposure is account payable fraud. This includes unauthorized or fictitious payments. Lina discovered that a payment had been made despite the supporting documentation did not match the actual delivery. This is indicative of weaknesses in the document checking procedures where payment can be granted without a valid matching of a purchase order, supply invoice, and goods received. Such control deficiency can provide an opportunity for workers or suppliers to submit fake or inflated bills that are paid for things that do not receive as agreed. The management could lose a lot of money for goods that never received or obtained in improper quantity if they are paid without sufficient verifications. It also weakens internal controls and increases the possibility that the fraudulent payments could go undetected. Based on Lina's evaluations, it appears that there is a potential risk of account payables fraud in the expenditure cycle and has to be investigated further to identify whether or not unauthorized or fraudulent payments have been made.